or whatever comes up for you. So in essence, the next 50 minutes or so is going to be a conversation about transforming what Claire just mentioned, the reactive cycles in which we might find ourselves through connection. But I think with connection, we're quite typically talking about with other people. And if you are in leadership spaces or coaching spaces or anything of that nature, it's connecting with others, absolutely. This next conversation is about connecting to ourselves and to be able to create space to do that, to be aware of what comes up for us individually in terms of our own reactivity, our own reactive cycles, in whatever way that looks for you. And it is about holding some space to consider what could be holding us back, the invisible patterns that shape our decision making and our way of being and our way of leading, and indeed bleeds into probably all aspects of our lives. So it's just a glimpse. This conversation is just a glimpse into the kind of work that I do in the coaching space. But I just want to be very clear, this isn't coaching in this conversation. I'm not trying to coach anybody here. That I think, to me at least, that's important to say. Coaching is profoundly deep work, and it's if you've had coaching, if you do coach, you know it's built around a whole host of agreements and understandings of each other as well. This is more me having a chance to share some techniques which I've discovered and used over the last few years, really helpful to me in my day-to-day life and in my work, and hopefully they'll be helpful to you and those around you. So I just want to encourage you to be comfortable. I hope some of you will feel you can come on camera if you want to interact and ask questions or share. You don't have to, but if you can, that would be great. But hey, move around, doodle, sketch, whatever you want to do to get comfortable. And I think the last thing I'll say is it's important that you feel that you can engage or not as much or as little as you want to. So that's really, really important. Go to whatever depth you want to or disengage from a conversation. Just do whatever feels right for you. And on that note, actually, a couple of logistics. At the very end, I would love to just take a couple of screenshots. They would be for myself to be able to promote Pride in Leadership on LinkedIn, on social media, etc. But I think what we can do if you don't want to be a part of that is just leave the camera off and hide the self view. And the other thing, speaking of reactive cycles, is how long ago, Claire? Half an hour ago, I was in tech meltdown. Managed to get everything working. Should I disappear? Should I disappear? I do have a workaround. So should I disappear?
I'll be doing a tap dance.
You tap dance, twiddle your thumbs for about 30 seconds, and then I will come back. But I've got a workaround. But hey, it's real life on Zoom. Doesn't always quite go to plan. So enough from me. Let's move forward. And I will introduce myself. It would be a little bit odd if I didn't. But I do want you to feel that you can engage here. I don't know where you've just come from, if you've come from any kind of meeting or anything. So chance just to kind of feel like you can get your feet under the table a little bit here. I'm going to ask you in a second just to think about somebody that made you feel great. And the reason being is when we talk about reactive cycles, reactivity, it's very common that they make us feel closed or closed off or even closed down and constricted in some way. I'm going to speak to what I mean about that in just a few minutes' time. But I would like to start with a very different kind of sensation about being more open. I'm going to ask you to think about somebody quite recently in your life, personal, professional life, who made you feel seen or heard or wanted or loved. You know, they really got you. I'm just going to pause, see if somebody comes to mind or to heart. Might be a feeling you have first. And not to necessarily do anything with this, but just to consider what was it they did and how did that make me feel? And if there isn't anybody, fear not, don't worry. If somebody does come up for you, just note that sensation, if it's openness, lightness, enjoyment, whatever that might be for you. And just notice over the next conversation, if and when you might move away from that space into something that maybe doesn't feel quite as enjoyable or as pleasant or as pleasurable. Oh, let me say hi properly. So my work these days spans coaching, facilitation, retreats, speaking. I'll probably just focus on the coaching for today, which its culmination has been about 15 years plus in the making, and I'm working with leaders and teams, and my work, especially these days, because it's, I'd say, needed now more than ever, is working with the things that we quite often shy away from, the things which are below the surface, our own reactions, and things below that which are driving those reactions. So I'm often working with senior leaders on things like vulnerability, shame, fear, panic, anxiety. And it manifests in so many ways for them. The outward goal might be things like building trust with teams, inspiring change, those kind of things, or working on their career, or it might be something completely different. It might be something in their personal life, like confidence, relationships with family. It's the essence of the work that I do now, but at the deeper reactive emotional level. So I was thinking about how I bring that to life, and I just want to very quickly share a story with you of somebody with whom I worked many, many years ago, and see if it resonates for you in any way. This is a leader, really accomplished person. I'm still in touch with them today. Highly gifted, highly intelligent, and really dedicated to making their work, their team a success. And yet they gave me a call several years ago and said, "Paul, I need you to come and help. There's a problem with my team, and they just won't do this, and they just won't." The problem was out there somewhere. You can probably see where I'm going with this. So I went and I sat with them, and I don't remember the conversation that the team and I had that first time because it was so many years ago. I do to this day viscerally remember how I felt when I first sat with them. It was so tense and so charged. And I remember looking around the room, and eye contact was kind of pulled away, conversations were clipped, kind of sounded like they were talking to each other, but they weren't. A conversation is like, "Listen, I hear you. I develop my viewpoint. I interact." This wasn't anything like that. This was people laying out their stalls, if you like, a series of guarded defensive positions. And underneath all of this was this great sense of tension and possible anxiety that nobody was talking about. And it was the leader, with absolutely no malice or cruel intent or bad intent in any way. It was the leader that was at the heart of this environment. They had no space in their life. And this is important, space. I want you to kind of double underline that word in your head because I'm going to come back to it. They had no space in their life to breathe. They'd been running on automatic because of just the sheer pressure that they were facing for years, just responding quickly without really giving it the thought they needed. So they were second guessing themselves, they were micromanaging, they were shutting down conversations and causing the very environment that they were suffering in. And when I was thinking about this person, I thought, gosh, I look back with so much compassion because they were caught in what I've come to call the grip. So I hope we'll connect after today, and Claire, maybe we can talk about LinkedIn's and websites and all those kind of things towards the end. But the grip is something I coined on LinkedIn as a kind of experimental piece of work. It was something I wanted to do as a vehicle to be able to talk about the things that we don't talk about in the leadership space, the levels of fear and panic and worry and anxiety that are all below the surface that we don't talk about in the working environment or in society because we feel like we can't, and make a space where it's safer to start talking about those things. And this leader was caught in that grip. It wasn't about their ability to care for others. It was about the fact that they were so caught that they had no space to really see how they were reacting below the surface and how that was impacting other people. So this is the kind of work I'm in now, and this is the kind of space that I want to open up for you all today. So actually, let me just ask you if that story resonates. I don't think that story is me describing anything out of the ordinary, really. But I wonder, does that story resonate for you in any way, in terms where you feel like you've been pulled or gripped by your own reactivity? And by all means, come in, share, write in chat if you want to. But I'd love to hear from maybe just one person if that resonates.
Paul, let me cover silence for you. So, I will say to everyone in the call, Paul and I do work together as coaches, but I am also a leader of an ERG or a player-led network. So quite often over the last few years, especially as I've been in role for 3 years now, I am quite a reactive person. And I feel it when I'm trying to look after groups of people or look after a certain group of people, and I feel like they're being attacked or come for someone's not on the right page as me. So over the years, I've had to really work on that immediate explosion and not wanting to be there, but also causing like friction and just taking a minute to relax before I respond. Was it respond, don't react? I think you once said to me, pause, because I do often not pause. So those little tips are in my head now because I can feel the tension as I'm there, and I know that I'm going to lose control of what I might say or do in those scenarios, and then be thought of differently as well.
Yeah, thanks, Juno. I mean, even this conversation today is in two halves. It's in the what is reactivity like for me, and then what might I do to help, and it is in the pause. It is in the pause space. Okay, let's move forwards. I want to share with you a really simple. I love this. I love this technique because it is so simple. Technique to help you recognize when you might have fallen into a space where you're not at your best, where you're gripped. Some of you will most likely know this technique. If you've used it, come in, share your experience. I'd love to hear. I would like to ask you to imagine a line. That's it. Just a horizontal line in front of you, or rather a horizontal line, and then of course you've got space and above, below the line. And what I'm going to do is just bring to life for a moment what life might be like for you when you are in the space above the line and below the line. Does anybody know this technique? Just give me a thumb or an emoji on your screen. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, then hopefully this is going to be of help for you. Okay, cool. Ross, thank you. So by all means, come in and share experience if you want to. I'm going to use very high level words. You are going to have your own words, which are much more significant and poignant to you. So use words that come up for you in the moment. But keeping it quite high level, I would say above the line, when we're above the line, we're quite spacious. We feel quite free and relaxed and open. Um, Conversations, activities, life might be easier in that space. It might be more enjoyable. I've got access to my memories. I can think clearly and tie things together. And doesn't mean I like everything. The person with whom I'm talking might really annoy me, but that's okay. I'm aware of it, and hey, that's real life. I can kind of get on with that. Below the line, something different. Below the line, I've been triggered. I've been pulled. I've been gripped in some way. I do not feel open. In fact, I feel quite closed or constricted. And I feel kind of defensive, I feel like I need to protect myself. And because of that, I might do things that I might not do when I'm above the line. I might blame, it's their fault. It's that thing over there that caused this. Or I need to be right. I've got to prove that I'm right in this space. Again, I'm keeping a high level. Use your own words that come up for you. But if we're below the line, when we go below the line, it's often driven by perceived or a real, but often a perceived threat to our identity, our way of life in some way. And it's going to come up differently for all of us. It might be snapping at somebody, um, shutting down or shutting down conversations. For some, it might be overthinking and spiraling. Above the line, we create space. The word again, space. I'm going to come back to it, I promise. Space to breathe, space to notice and respond with some intention. Below the line is something very, very different. So the first step is recognizing when we've gone below the line. That's so key to all of this. And something that I just want to touch on here for a moment, because I've just said when we go below the line, it's often because of a perceived sense of risk or danger or threat to our identity in some way. So if I'm working in this space with clients and we're doing very deep emotional work, we might work with the source code of those reactions. We might work with the reactive patterns that they're experiencing in the body and the events which created those patterns from formative years, early moments in career, and so on. Now, we're absolutely not doing anything like that today. But I do just want to pause for a moment just to acknowledge that for many of us in the LGBTQ plus community, we may well have our own unique set of experiences and pressures and things that we feel are upon us or even against us that may have some weight, may have gone in some way to creating some of the very patterns we experience today. So that could be messages from caregivers or society or the media, whether they're implicit or explicit, I guess may have shaped how we view ourselves, how we view others, and how we behave and lead our lives and lead others today. So I'm only touching on it here in the space of what happens when we do drop below the line. And I'm going to build on it a little bit as we go. And again, just engage as much or as little as you want to. But I want to help us to broaden and deepen our ability to name and notice what is really happening for us, because that's the start of this. If I can name and notice what is happening for me, as you just heard Junior did, with some love and care and compassion, to really, really be with what is happening for me in the body, not what I think is happening, because we start to go, oh, well, this is happening because no, we've gone up into the head. Can we be with what is actually going on in the body and welcome that in and go, that's a part of who I am. This is my reactivity. So invitation to have a go with that now, just a really light level. An invitation, if you want to, is to think about a time now where you have been triggered quite recently, or somebody pushed your buttons and okay, so we've just had the festive period. Many of you might have spent time with family and such, and I find that comes with its whole set of pressures. So thinking about a recent time, work, home, wherever it might be, where you felt triggered, where you went below the line. And I just want to ask you to get curious for a moment and reflect on what was actually happening for me in the body. Tensions, tightness, nothing at all. Oh, get curious, what was going on in the body? I'm going to leave you with that just for a second. Again, if there's, and these might be quite personal, so don't bring any names in if you don't want to. But is there anything that anybody wants to bring in on the mic or in chat as well? Something that happened when you went below the line, and what was happening for you in those moments?
I'll give an example just to speak. I'm finding that I'm in a lot of conversations at the moment. I don't know if it's because trans is so in the news all the time. Everyone wants to talk about it, but then they're expecting me to deal with their views on it, which aren't always aligned to mine. And I'm finding that I just want to, I'm quite angry quite quickly on the subject at the moment, and I'm sort of wanting to shout.
Mm, mm, mm. Thank you. Thanks, Glenn. I'm just going to quickly open the chat. Like chest, difficult to breathe and think. Dan, yeah, absolutely. And I might kind of build with Junior what you said about fight or flight. In these moments, we can't. Let me come back to what I was going to say in a second. Just reading the news, upset, fear. I've stopped with the news. I've got to say, the downside is it means I'm quite ignorant at parties and things. But I'm just like, hey, I'm happy to just say, tell me about it, because my ability to be calm and responsive rather than reactive has increased so much since I've started watching the news. Embracing for a physical hit. I don't know if that protection for you, but it's quite natural and normal that below the line feels like a need to protect in some way. No worries, no worries, Jack. That's cool. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on staying off the media. Dan, let me just come back to what you said. Let me just scroll. Tight chest, difficult to breathe. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The key word in there, certainly for today, what I want to talk about and this is just one little part of reactivity, right, is the breathing. So again, underline that, everybody, in your head: space, breathe, or breath, or breathing. I'm going to come back. So I mean, reading it, I can feel that my diaphragm, is kind of like just reading it, and my breathing is a little bit more shallow than it was. And I think the key to that is notice it, right? Even in this moment, and I'm practicing this kind of work every single day, I'm teetering above and below the line at this moment. I'm at risk of just dropping. And that's just from reading about people being below the line. Because we know these sensations. We know how it feels for us to be, how for us it feels to be below the line. In this, I don't know how you're feeling right now. Actually, write in the chat if you want to, a couple of words to describe how you are feeling right now. And whilst you do that, I just want to hold this space as long as you're comfortable, or comfortable enough in the discomfort. Quite often what the coaching work is about. Just hover over what I was talking about the extra layers it might bring to be part of our community. And just be aware of what might happen for you over the next couple of moments in terms of your own reactivity in the moment. I mentioned, right, that many of our reactive patterns now might have been shaped by earlier parts of our lives, formative moments, early careers, or other significant moments in life. And that below the line might feel like we're closing off from others, from the world, to protect, to defend, to avoid feeling some kind of way. And I think for anybody in any community that's had to navigate and maybe even kind of go against societal norms, in inverted commas, this may well play a part for the reactions that we experience within ourselves today. So I'm just going to ask and just notice if anything and whatever happens for you. But were you told at some point in your life, literally or figuratively, you just picked up on messages, were you told to stay quiet or to not draw attention to yourself? Or maybe some kind of perceived need to really work? I mean, my God, work, to prove your worth, to prove your worthiness. Oh yes, yeah, yeah. Or like pulling away, like you learn to protect yourself or withdraw, literally hiding parts of who you are. And it's these experiences which can be playing a part in reactive patterns, which we might not even really notice that we have, or we do, but we don't really know how to access them because it seems almost too overwhelming to go into them. And these are the things which will be playing out in our daily lives today. So my only invitation to you, and you just say no if you don't want to, of course, is to just notice, what happens for you. Yeah, hey Matthew, and they're just the things I think of, right? I mean, we could probably list dozens, if not hundreds of things. But when I work with people in coaching, I'm working with the whole person. Irrespective of what the goal is, it's like you are the sum of all of your experiences to date. And that's the person that I'm working with. So let's work with the whole person. Today I'm keeping it high level, but given the uniqueness of our audience, I did want to, or us, I should say, I did want to just create some space for that just for a moment. CIA Junior? I should know what this is, right?
I don't know. It's from my old thing. We always say CIA, change, influence, or accept. So when I'm feeling like I am overwhelmed, it's like, can I change it? Can I influence it? Or do I need to accept it? And obviously what's going on right now in the world, I definitely can't change it, but I can influence it. And there's some things I need to accept. So that's what keeps me in control.
Nice. Thank you. A big part of this actually, is acceptance of who we are. So I said, can't remember the exact words I used, but I think I said something like accepting those parts of us that we notice with a great deal of love and compassion. I'm not suggesting without working with somebody that is kind of trained and qualified in this work. I'm not suggesting necessarily you do it on your own, but the work that I'm doing with people and on myself at the moment, especially, is not running away from those parts anymore. Is actually welcoming them in and kind of accepting them with love. so that they don't all get blocked up within me and cause me to drop below the line and react and say something I wish I hadn't said. And oh, so you may, looking at the chat, it sounds like you have already got quite a clear, like, cognitive awareness of what's going on, being able to name some of those reactions that you have. And if you have, great. And just hold to this next part quite lightly, because you might have enough. But if you're not able to do that, if you feel blocked, if you're kind of saying, "Well, Paul, I can kind of feel it, but I don't really know what it is," then let me just share 3 words with you, which might help just unlock something. And I'm keeping these words really broad, so just treat them quite loosely. They're controlling, complying, protecting. I'm going to say them a couple of times: controlling, complying, protecting. And I'll just bring them to life a little bit. And again, the invitation is just notice what happens for you when I say these out loud. Controlling, so taking over, micromanaging, everything needs to be perfect. I need everything to be perfect. Complying, so avoiding conflict, or saying yes when really I know I need to be saying no. People pleasing. Protecting, so shutting down, withdrawing, becoming defensive. So again, either on the mic or in the chat, just a chance to share what you notice. No rights, no wrongs, no analysis needed. Just noticing what's happening for you. Controlling, complying, protecting. For me, reading those through, I mean, elements of all 3, but really it's the final one, which is the one that is like, oh my gosh, that's so a part of my makeup, protecting, and the need to feel safe, which for me can show up as kind of literally distancing myself from people, pulling away. From a leadership point of view, I think that's the way I focus with that with the leaders, because I've done so much work on myself to heal some of those patterns, because I'm aware of the impact it might have on other people as well. People can tell if we're closed off to them or if we've closed down. So protecting for me is the one that really kind of stands out. How about for you? Mate, you could just write the word if any of them do, if any of them do resonate. Yeah, protect. I'm going to move us forward to bring us to what Junior was talking about right at the start, the pause. I am just gonna pause just for literally 5, 6 seconds for you just to check in and just make a note of where you are, how you're feeling right now, and if you're above or below the line. Now I want to help you create a point of difference. Remember, this was about coming out of reactivity. So I want to help you create a point of difference for you now in your minds and your bodies right now, right here, right now, and create some space, this feeling of spaciousness. So that you've got some room to be able to process, be in contact with what's really going on for you. Not the thought, but the emotional reaction that's going on. And then choose with more intention how you want to respond. So I'm going to bring in something so vital, so simple, and something that is almost always missed. And it is this. So please watch carefully. And if you're watching the recording, hello to you all, and please watch. And that's it. Well, it's not that's not it in coaching, but that's it. That's it for today. Breathe, right? And I'll ask you the question and you can put it in chat if you want to, but I know pretty much what the answer is going to be, he says confidently. But the question is, how often do you breathe on a daily basis? And I mean intentional breath, right? So I want to share with you a technique now, which we're just going to work with for the rest of the time today. I'm just going to demonstrate it. And then if you want to, I'm going to encourage you just to take 3, 4 of these kinds of breaths in your own time. You might have your own breathing techniques, in which case stick them in chat, share them. There's so many different ways. This is the one that's so effective for me and the people with whom I work. So 3 stages. In through the nose, and you're going to breathe down deep into the belly. So if it's helpful, put your hand on the belly because you want to feel it expand. Sometimes people then go like, no, 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 it needs to be comfortable. So it's in through the nose, down into the belly, feel it expand. And then you're going to hold it for half a second, but comfortable, right? And then the out breath is through the mouth, longer, slower, softer. In through the nose, deep into the belly, feel the belly expand, hold comfortably for a moment, and then let's do it once more. In through the nose, feel the belly expand and hold gently, and on the out breath, just noticing what you notice. I notice that my shoulders soften a little bit, for example. I sink a little heavier into the chair. I'm just going to hit mute on my side, and I'm just going to, if you want to, just say, just in your own time, 3, 4 of those breaths in through the nose, belly expand and hold, and gently. Just keeping your breathing very comfortable and regular. I'm just going to say those very broad patterns again, and breathe, right? Breathe, and just notice what happens in your body. And you may well come back up to the head, totally normal and natural. That's cool. You know, like, oh, something should have happened by now, or I don't get what Paul's trying to get me to go. That's cool. When that happens, just notice it and just come back to your body and breathe, and just notice anything you notice, even if what you notice is absolutely nothing at all. Noticing the body, controlling. Do you sometimes recognize a pattern of controlling, taking over, micromanaging others? Things have to be perfect and right. Breathe. Complying. So avoiding any kind of conflict, saying yes. And I know I shouldn't be saying yes, or I'm trying to please people. Or protecting, I'm shutting off or down in some way. I'm guarding and defending and protecting myself. Breathe. I just want to leave you as you do breathe with the question, just for a few seconds in your own space, of what are you noticing about how these tendencies or others might be showing up for you in your life, in your work, in your leadership? What do you notice about how these tendencies might be showing up for you? And breathe. What are you noticing? And by all means, answer. It's rhetorical, but by all means, answer or write into chat if you want to. Hey, Jamie, I'm sorry, I've just seen your message. I've probably missed you, but thank you for that. Thanks for being here. Just breathing. What are you noticing about the tendencies, how they show up? How have they been shaped? How do they impact you in how you lead, how you connect with yourself, with others, how you lead your daily life? Thanks, Claire. Yeah, keep the breathing, keep it comfortable. Notice if and when you've stopped doing it. Notice when the brain takes over. That's cool. Just bring it back. I'm going to ask us all just to switch cameras off, if we may. I'm going to do the same myself. I'm going to leave my mic on, but want to deepen this sense of presence with the body. Again, if you don't want to engage with this, great. That's fine. Just take a break for 2 or 3 minutes and grab a cup of tea, whatever, come back. I'm just going to do a body scan with you, which some of you may well have done or similar things. You know, when I'm working with people that are highly reactive or caught or in states of panic, fear, etc., they're typically in their heads. They've got so used to trying to think their way through everything. Deborah, good to be with you today. Thank you so much. And they've actually forgotten how to be in the body, you know, or their working world is so demanding of analytical intelligence that we forgot that the body has so many answers, so much knowledge and wisdom. So I'm just going to help with a very short glimpse into a body scan, just to connect a little bit more fully to the body. Keep your breathing regular. And I want you to bring your attention to the area around your eyes and your forehead. And all we're going to do is gently scan down the body. We're not trying to do anything here. So notice when your brain kicks in and says, I don't get what Paul's doing, or shouldn't something have happened by now? And when that happens, just notice it and come back to wherever we are in the body. So bringing your awareness to the area around your eyes, your forehead, and just notice. It might feel comfortable, it might feel tense. We're not trying to change anything. All we're doing is noticing. And just follow me if you want to as we move the awareness to around the ears and the back of the neck, and then around the front of the throat. Just noticing whatever is there, ease, tension, and breathe. Always breathing comfortably at your own pace, your own rate. And we'll gently move awareness down to the chest. And we're just going to hang out there for a moment and just notice whatever we notice, even if what we notice is nothing at all. And to the shoulders. And we're gently moving awareness down the upper arms, feeling any sensations, the elbows, the forearms. Move your awareness to the hands and the fingers and the fingertips. And keeping the breathing comfortable and regular, bring your awareness to your lower chest. And we'll go around to the lower back. Moving down and back around to the belly, to the stomach. And breathe. And we'll move awareness down to the lower body, to the pelvis, and any sensations of contact with the chair or wherever you may be sat. And the upper legs and the thighs and hips. And the knees. And very, very gently just bringing awareness down. Noticing if you get distracted, completely normal. Bringing awareness down to the lower legs, to the shins, calves, the ankles, and to the feet, the balls and soles of the feet, and any contact with your footwear or the floor. And breathe. And breathe. And just in your own time now for a few moments, moving your awareness back through the body and noticing if there's anywhere within your body you just want to hang out for a moment. It feels comfortable for you to rest your consciousness in that place. And by all means do so if there is. If not, maybe just keep your awareness gently at your feet and any feelings of contact you have there. And breathe. And now wherever your awareness is, just bring it gently back to the feet. And we're just going to gently scan back up the body to the lower legs, the upper legs, the pelvis, and any contact with the chair, and to the belly and the lower back, the upper back, and around to the chest and to your shoulders if it's comfortable. Helpful, you might want to just rotate your shoulders slightly. Bring your awareness down to your fingers, maybe just gently moving or waggling them. And gently bringing that awareness up through the lower arms, the upper arms, into the neck, up towards the ears, and moving your awareness back to the front, the areas around the eyes and the forehead. Just taking one or two of those breaths in your own time, and if you're comfortable to do so, just bringing your camera back on. We're creating space. We're creating space to come away from the analytical thinking, to come into the body. And we're not trying to change anything today, but we're creating space to be aware of what happens for us in the body. And what I hear so often, it's really typical that we all say this, and I've said this myself, is I don't have time for this, Paul, in my life. I don't have time. And I get it. It's busy. And we have phones that are filled with apps and endless notifications and Zoom meetings and diary, and I could keep going. I get it. Even just saying it, my breathing changed. I'm just gonna. But I'm like, if I can speak frankly, at what cost? Can you afford to not have this space in your life, to live a life which is purely based on reaction? So what's the cost of not having space, being in that reactive below the line space, kind of just working on autopilot from things which may not have any place today, but my God, they feel like they do because they were born out of some incredibly significant experiences. It's the awareness to notice those things. So can you afford not to have space? But it also doesn't need to be anything monumental. I've just had a pop-up here on my screen, which I thought I'd silenced, that says breathe. And it pops up a couple of times a day, every day, because some days I'm great at it, and some days I've been got by the grip, you know. Oh yeah, just breathe. Practice cultivating that space. All it needs to be. So I want to start bringing us in, and we're coming up. We're not there yet, but we're coming to the end. So it's typically where we go into sense making of whatever may have happened for you today or may go on to happen because of today. And this is where I see people plummet right back below the line. So notice if that's true for you in this moment of, right, sense making, actions, got to tie it all together. What does it mean? I don't get what Paul's. Doesn't have to make sense today. It doesn't have to make analytical sense. You know, if I can leave you with anything, it's that we have got so used to being entirely in our heads and valuing analytical sense making and intelligence over everything else. It's just one part of our intelligence. There's so much below the neck. It doesn't have to make analytical sense today. What I would suggest and encourage you, if you want to, is make some space for yourself. Go for a walk this afternoon. Do some exercise tomorrow. Whatever works for you. Whatever part of your life for you is that little bit of space for you, and just let things make sense. You focus on creating space rather than trying to force things to fit into spaces and actions. So because of that, I'm not going to ask you actions and things that you might be taking today. I'm going to ask you two things, and I'd love to hear from maybe one or two people in the chat or on the mic about, is there a recurring pattern that you notice is playing out for you in your leadership? But to come back to what Claire said at the beginning, it's beyond that, right? Leadership, your life, your relationships. Or maybe I'll just ask what stood out for you today. And just hold a little bit of space, and feel free to come in.
Hi. Something that popped out for me, Paul, was I thought the three words controlling, complying, protecting, really helpful to categorize those
Yeah.
thoughts that happen below the line. What I noticed, I thought of a specific personal situation where I suppose we go below the line together in our conversations, butting heads sometimes, and they will take one of those roles and I'll take the other two. And so it just fuels and fuels. So I was wondering maybe if you had any thoughts on that, or if not, then that's just my reflection.
I do. And maybe, and I could talk for about an hour, which I won't. If you want to connect and we can have a longer chat, by all means do. I'll come back to the chat in a moment. So you're both below the line, did you say? Yeah. So this is two people both. I mean, I don't know what the situation is, obviously, but at a very high level, two people both defending their position, wanting to prove their rightness. Well, do the maths, right? It's just not going to work. The work I'm doing at the moment and the study that I'm doing at the moment is about, let's say it's you and I. How do I notice all the stuff that goes on for me that makes me go below the line? And how can I kind of like cleanse that so I can leave enough space so that I can actually really feel what is happening for you in that moment? It means I need to be in quite a compassionate space, because I need to be able to see what's really going on for Jessica. And yeah, I notice I'm dropping below the line, but I'm going to do some work on, actually, no, I'm going to pause, and I'm going to breathe, and I'm going to come back above the line. And I'm going to really focus on my compassion and my ability to hold space for the person in front of me. Is my shortest answer to that question, but by all means, I'd love to, just grab a coffee on Zoom and we can chat. But thank you for that. Yeah, Amelia, that's what I'm saying with this. When we say I don't have enough time for this kind of space in my life, and you say, I mean, that was just a few minutes, right? It's just a few minutes, and I could have done something shorter than that as well. But the breathing, calming down the mind, coming into the body, and if that takes you to somewhere that's deeply uncomfortable, is reaching out and finding somebody to be with, right? I mean, that's what I learned, is we don't do this work alone. We do this with other people. We're communal animals and beings. We're supposed to be with people, but just taking a few breaths can make such a difference. Anything else that's coming up? Patterns, takeaways, standouts, questions? So let's connect. Claire can send out info, I'm sure. And join me on LinkedIn, because I would love for you to see how the grip evolves, the concept I told you. And hot off the press, Claire, you don't know this yet. I decided this at the end of last year, I wanted to take the grip out to the world in some way. And I found out a couple of days ago, I'm a finalist for TEDx. So I'm going to be flying over to Ireland next month to present to a panel for TEDx. So not at all nervous and reactive about that. So I'd love for you to connect with me and see how that develops over the next month. Thank you. Lots of love, lots of space. Thank you so much, Claire. I'll come over to you if I may.
That is amazing,
Thank you.
Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you.